Hello, everyone. This is Kate from dailytarotable.com, and I'm so excited to have you on my webinar. It's been a long time since I've done a webinar. I think it's been almost over a year now, so I'm super excited to be doing this, and I'm excited to have you here. And I just want to say thank you so much for choosing to spend me. I'm super flattered that you're here. And I just want to say, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat room. To your right, you'll notice there's a little chat box there. So please feel free to say hello, introduce yourself, say where you're from. And we're going to get started in about a minute or two. From Montreal. Hi, Marina from San Francisco. Hi, George. I don't know where you're from. Meredith from Austin. Hello. Hello, Jeffrey from San Marcos. Wow, it's going so fast now I can hardly read it. There's so many people typing things. Okay, so this webinar is going to be super chilled out, super laid back. I've got my cheers. So yeah, I'm going to be sharing 4 secrets to doing fabulous tarot readings. So we're going to have lots of fun. And before I get into today's topic, I just want to put a question out there and ask you most like to get out of this webinar. So what are you, or why did you show up tonight? What are you hoping to get out of this webinar? And while I'm waiting for those responses to come through, I'll just give you a kind of a breakdown of how I'll be doing things. So I'm going to start revealing my 4 tarot reading secrets, and then over to a live Q&A. So after I'm done the presentation, I'll open it up for questions, and you can ask me any question. It doesn't have to be related to the specific topic tonight. But first, before I dive into the webinar, I just want to let you know why I'm doing this webinar and why I'm doing this webinar on this particular topic. So every year I send out my audience. So I send a survey out to my bloggers and readers and my YouTube viewers as well. And if you're one of those people who did my survey, thank you very much for doing it. So every year I send out a survey and I ask, I want to get an idea of, what people want to learn, what people are struggling with, so I can have an idea as to what kind of content to create for my website and my YouTube channel. And what kinds of courses. And what I did is I noticed when I was reading through the last survey that there was sort of 4 key areas that came up a lot. So I was noticing repeat that people were struggling with and what people wanted to learn. And interestingly, those were the same things that I struggled with when I was learning tarot as well. So I'll tell you what they are. So number 1 is learning to connect with your intuition more and, reading a card intuitively. The second, the tarot card meanings and connecting with your tarot deck. The third one was being able to tarot card in different contexts. And the last one was being able to connect the cards in a reading. So I'm going to kind of touch on all of those 4 topics tonight. But another webinar is I want to help you add some kind of life and magic into your tarot readings. So when I first began reading tarot, I was initially attracted to tarot because I felt like it was mysterious and cool, and it just really intrigued me. And then when I started learning the basics of tarot, I was almost I felt like, once I learned the basics, not flat, they felt kind of boring. And there was definitely no mystery or magic or anything like that to my readings. And I remember thinking oh, this is so not what I thought tarot was. And over the years, I've learned, new things, new techniques, and I view tarot and I've shifted the way. And By doing that gradually over the years, I was able to finally figure out make my tarot experiences and my tarot readings feel mystical and just really awesome, really fabulous. So I hope that by the end of this webinar, I'll have given you some to do the same thing. Okay, so I'm just gonna read some of the comments here to see what you guys wanna get out of this webinar. Okay, so Michelle says you want to feel more in tune with the tarot. There's a few newbies here, and scroll down here. Oh, that's awesome. There's tons of people here. Oh, I'm so excited. You have to bear with me here. This is a webinar in a while, and I'm a little bit rusty with the technology. Practice doing this yesterday. Okay, so yeah, it looks like Dawn, you want to learn connecting the cards into a cohesive story. That's a big one, being able to tell a story with the cards. That's great. And Kat is a professional tarot reader on a psychic hotline. She's here to learn how to keep giving great readings. That's awesome. I find that it's important to keep kind of learning and re-inspiring yourself with tarot, because I find that if you don't do that, sometimes you can get kind of bored with it. Soren wants to make better use of my intuition when reading tarot. Awesome. We're definitely going to be focusing on that. And I wish I could read all of these, but it would just take me forever and you guys would get so bored. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so looks like we have an awesome group on the webinar tonight. So I will go ahead and I'm going to start my presentation with secret number 1. So I'm just going to skip over my slideshow here, and I'll be back in my face again at some point. Okay, so tarot secret number 1 is use your intuition. So do not be afraid to incorporate more of your intuition into your tarot readings. This is what's going to bring that kind of extra flair. It's going to really put your personality into your readings. And before I dive into this topic, I want to ask you, on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with incorporating your intuition into your readings? So with 1 being not comfortable at all, and 10 being totally comfortable, totally at ease. Where would you say you sit on a scale of 1 to 10? And my other question for you is, what stops you from using your intuition in a tarot reading? So feel free to post that in the chat room. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you with interpreting your intuition into a tarot reading? And what stops you from using your intuition more in a tarot reading? So I want to talk just a moment about 2 ways to interpret a tarot card. So there are some readers who prefer to interpret a tarot card purely with their intellect, purely with their mind. So this is where you would have a lot of emphasis on the book meanings of the tarot cards. And this is just sort of more of an intellectual approach to interpreting the tarot cards. And then there's readers who like to really focus on using their intuition to interpret the cards. So this is where a reader might use the images and the symbols on a tarot card to kind of trigger their intuition and their feeling about a card. And both of these ways of reading tarot are totally valid. But my favorite way to read tarot is to combine these. So what I've noticed is that reading tarot with intellect alone can make for flat, one-dimensional, and lifeless tarot readings. So this is what was happening to me when I was first doing like my first tarot readings, when I was just learning. I was just using my intellect. I didn't know how to work with my intuition. So I was reading the cards with intellect alone, and my readings were flat. They were one-dimensional. They were not that exciting. What I have noticed though is that when you read tarot with intuition and intellect, so when you kind of combine both of those things, this makes for really magical and fabulous readings. This is what puts kind of the life into your readings. It makes your readings come alive and feel more vibrant. So there's two main reasons why tarot readers hesitate to use their intuition. Number one is fear, and this could be fear of opening to intuition. So fear of, connecting with your intuition because you're not really sure what's going to happen, or you're worried about kind of opening that can of worms and exploring that aspect of yourself. Or it could just be fear of looking stupid if you, use your intuition to interpret a card and just say something totally off the wall that doesn't make logical sense, and then the person you're reading for might think you're crazy. That's another fear. And the second reason why tarot readers hesitate to use their intuition more in their readings is that they don't really know how to. So they're not, they might be very intuitive, but they may not know exactly how to read a card intuitively or how to use that medium of tarot to bring out their intuition. So how do you use your intuition in a tarot reading? Like how do you go about using the tarot cards to kind of coax out your intuition? So the number one piece of advice I have for you here is don't think about the card in front of you when you're doing a tarot reading. I want you to feel into it. So analyzing a card with your mind is great, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it only gets you so far. And at some point, you kind of have to just dive right in and immerse yourself and really let the card speak to you. So I'm going to show you a picture of a tarot card. So this is the Three of Cups from Hesychos Tarot by Mary Griffin. It's an awesome deck. It's one of my favorite decks. And what I want you to do is look at this card, and instead of looking at it with your mind, think about looking at it with your heart. So I like to imagine my eyes kind of sinking down into my chest and then opening up and looking at this card through my heart. I want you to think about feeling into this card. So noticing how this card makes you feel emotionally. And use your five senses to feel into this card. So really get a sense for kind of the flavor of this card. If this card were a food and you were to eat it, how do you think it would taste? Would it be sweet, crunchy, salty? And if you were to kind of interject yourself into this card, into this scene, how do you think things would smell? What kinds of sounds would be there? So you're really kind of using all your senses to feel into this card. And just let the card speak to you. What message does it have for you? So forget about the book meaning here. Like, don't worry about what a tarot book would say about this card, but just let the card speak to you and see if it has a particular message for you. And I'll just be quiet for a few seconds here and let you feel into this card. Now, the whole purpose of this exercise is to allow you to have kind of a different experience of this tarot card than you might be used to. So I think most of us, and I do this all the time, despite the fact that I'm teaching this, but most of us, I think, when we first turn over a card, we look at it with our minds and we try to analyze it and figure out, okay, what does it mean? We try to kind of solve the mystery of the card. We try to analyze it with our mind. And this exercise, the whole point of it is to allow you to feel into the card. So to create some space around the card and to allow you to just kind of be with the card, because that is when you have more of an experience of a card. So it's not about trying to figure out a card or trying to define it or decode it, but you're having an experience with that card. Okay, so if you feel brave, you can share, if this card had a message for you, please feel free to share in the comment section. And actually, I'm just gonna have a look at the comments here. Natasha says this card makes you want to go out and party. Yep. Oh, Jeffrey, I love what you said. It looks light. It tastes like cupcakes, strawberries, joyful, sunny, relaxed. Yeah, totally. Okay, I just want to see what people said about how comfortable they were incorporating their intuition. I just want to see the numbers. Oh, good. Okay, some 8s, 9s, a 3, 7, 6, 5, 2. So really all over the map. So everyone's a little bit different here. Okay, awesome. Nice. Thomas said it feels like friendship. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, okay. So now I'm going to move on to secret number 2. So tarot secret number 2 is connect with your tarot deck. So the more bonded you are with your tarot deck, the more connected you feel to it, the more meaningful your readings are going to be. So your readings are going to be more high quality than if you were not really connected to your deck. So it's really important, especially when you get a new deck, to really take the time to get to know that deck and to connect with it. So my question for you is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how connected do you feel to your tarot deck right now? And if you have a whole bunch of decks, just think about the deck that you use most often. So think about, do your readings feel like a good conversation with a friend? Or do they feel like you're trying to get a stranger to talk to you? I think what's interesting is that there's a lot of emphasis placed on learning the tarot card meanings, but there's not a lot of emphasis placed on connecting with your tarot deck and really getting to know your tarot deck. So I'm going to actually come back on camera here. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so I'm just looking at some of the numbers here. Okay, Brooke, you said 3, there's a 9, 7, 10, 10. Okay, lots of people are really connected to their decks. That's awesome. Wonderful. Yeah, there's some 2s and 3s as well. Okay, so I want to share with you my favorite techniques for connecting to your tarot deck. So my number 1 favorite technique is to interview your tarot deck. Now, this is a really fun exercise, especially if you just get a new deck. You can do it, and what you would do is you would ask your deck questions, almost like you were your deck and trying to get to know someone better. So you'd ask questions like, what's your personality like? What do you look for in a tarot reader? Things like that. And I actually have I was supposed to mention this at the beginning of the webinar, but I forgot. I've got a free download for you. So it's a couple of worksheets, a couple of my favorite tarot exercises, and I'll be giving that to you at the end of the webinar. But one of the worksheets on there is a list of interview questions to ask your tarot deck. So that's one of my favorite tarot exercises. Another thing you can do is you can simply just spend time getting to know your deck. So take a break from doing deck and interview your deck, meditate with your deck. Some people will sleep with their tarot deck kind of on their nightstand, or you can meditate just holding your deck in your hand and set that intention to kind of ease with your energy. And yeah, the idea is just using the cards with your energy. So my other favorite tip for connecting with your deck is to keep a tarot journal. Spend time familiarizing yourself with each card in your tarot deck. So this is over a long period of time. This isn't something you do, in a weekend or anything like that. You can take as long as you want with this one. I know when I was first learning tarot, what I would do is I would draw a card each morning, and then I would spend some time in my tarot journal. So you can just write things like how that card makes you feel, some of the things you notice about that card, what you like about it, what you don't like about it, what you think it means. You can look up the meaning in your book and then kind of journal about that. But the whole point of this exercise is that you're you're getting to know and understand the tarot card meanings on more of a personal level. So if you just get a tarot book and you read about the meanings and try to memorize them or try to memorize keywords, it's kind of a little more clinical, it's kind of cold, it's not as personal, and you're not going to be able to remember those meanings as well as if you were to spend the time journaling about each card and seeing how that card, relates to you in your life. The more personal you make it, the easier it will be to not just learn what the tarot card meanings are, but to actually understand them on a deeper level. Okay, so this is something that takes time though, so that's not something that you wanna rush. Okay, so next I want to, I'm just reading the comments here. Yeah, nice. Yeah. Seren says, I love deck interviews. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so my next secret number 3, before I get into this one, I want to talk a little bit about reading a tarot card in different contexts, because this is something that I hear a lot from people, and I hear it from beginners and I hear it from really experienced readers, and people will say, I know what all the cards mean. I don't have any trouble, interpreting tarot cards on their own, but I struggle to interpret a tarot card differently depending on, where it's placed in a spread or the question being asked or the surrounding cards. So my secret number 3 is bear with me, I'm just figuring stuff out here. Okay, tarot secret number 3 is to see the tarot cards as people. So this sounds totally weird and creepy, but hear me out. So tarot cards, like people, are multidimensional. So just think of yourself, think of your own personality. And I mean, you've probably noticed this, that depending on your environment, so depending on where you are, you're going to behave differently. So you're kind of a different person, or you show different aspects of your personality when you're at work, trying to be professional, and when you're at home with your family. You're probably going to act different when you're like out with a bunch of friends versus like home alone, I don't know, in your bath reading a book or something like that. So depending on your environment, depending on what's happening, what's going on for you, you're going to behave and act differently. So tarot cards are no different. And the tarot cards and tarot card meanings are actually very fluid. So they're not static. And this is where it's kind of almost pointless to try to memorize card definitions or keywords, because the meanings aren't static, they're very fluid, and they're affected by the surrounding cards in a tarot reading. They're affected by the question being asked or the issue being read about. And they're affected by the position that they're in a particular spread. And of course, the reader's intuition. But next time you're doing a tarot reading, I don't want you to worry about all this stuff, because if you think about all this stuff, it's going to overwhelm you, boggle your mind, and it's going to make you just get stuck in your head. And I don't want you to do that. So instead, I want you to see your tarot cards as actual beings, like people, and to get a sense of their essence, so their vibe or their energy. And when you get a sense of a tarot card's essence, you will have an easier time deciphering its message in a variety of contexts. So I'm just going to refer to my notes here, because I think I got ahead of myself. Okay, so one way to think about this is, think about going to a party and you meet someone for the first time at that party. They're going to tell you a bunch of information about themselves, like what their job is, whether they're married, or what their hobbies and interests are. And that is kind of the same as like when you draw a tarot card and you don't know anything about it, so you look up the meaning in your tarot book and you get a bunch of information about that tarot card. It's kind of like the same thing. However, when you meet that person at the party, you get all that information about them, but at the same time, you also pick up on their energy and their vibe. You get a certain sense of who that person is just from being near them and interacting with them. So you might get a bad vibe, like you just really don't like that person, or they seem kind of insecure and you want to get away from them. Or you might get a really positive vibe, like they feel maybe very confident and likable, and you just want to, you know, be around them more and talk to them more. So you get this sort of sense of their energy when you spend time with someone and talk to them. And you can, like, all the information they gave you about themselves, like where they work and stuff like that. I mean, that's important to a point, but it doesn't really tell you that much about who a person is. You really get a sense of that through spending time with them and interacting them. You pick up on that vibe. So tarot cards are kind of the same. So you can learn a whole bunch about what a tarot card means in a book, and that's helpful. But at some point, you have to really feel into that card. You have to spend time with that card and contemplate it, and get a sense of its essence and its vibe. And when you do that, it's easier to decipher its message in a variety of contexts. So information, okay, I already talked about this. Okay, so here is another tarot card. This is the Sun from the Dame Darcy Mermaid Tarot, another really awesome deck. And I want you to spend a moment just kind of looking at this card and let yourself feel into this card. So get a sense of its energy, its vibe, kind of what it's all about. And while you're doing that, I am going to demonstrate how I would interpret this card in a couple of very different contexts. So when I feel into the Sun, I get a sense of it's very fun. It feels childlike, feels very light. I want to laugh, like I feel like there's laughter. It's bubbly, it's optimistic. Now, if I were doing a reading for someone and they were asking about their love life and they asked me, you know, what do I need to do to attract the right partner into my life? I would look at this card and I would say something like, you need to really embrace the childlike, fun side of yourself. You need to get out there and do things that make you happy and have fun, relax. Don't focus on trying to attract anyone. Just be, you know, just be yourself in terms of, you know, having a good time, and be playful. Don't take things so seriously. Now, if I were to get this card in a reading for myself, and let's say I'm doing a spread and this card shows up in the let go position. So this is the position where it's like, you know, what you need to let go of right now. And let's say the Sun shows up. It's always weird when you get a positive card in a position like that. So I would look at this card again, I would feel into it, get a sense of its essence, and I might say something, or I might think something like, okay, I need to let go of my immaturity and kind of I maybe shouldn't be so overly optimistic. Maybe I need to be more realistic and a little more mature and not be so focused on always having fun. Maybe I need to take things a little more seriously. So that's just a couple of examples of two very different ways of interpreting this card. Okay, so now that you've felt into this card, you've got a sense of the energy, I want you to ask a question, and that question is, what is the next step for me? So you ask that question, what is the next step for me? And then look at this card, because this card is going to give you an answer. It's going to speak to you. And I want you to tell me in the comment section or in the chat, what is this card telling you? Does it have a message for you? Oh, nice. Michelle, you said, I need to relax more. That's awesome. Carrie L, you said, I'd interpret that as letting go of my hesitation to stand out. Yeah, I love it. Let go of stress. Enjoy life more. Stop thinking about my problems. Yeah, these are good ones. Vacation. Yep. Go to the ocean and meditate. These are some good ones. Yeah, find your joy. Embrace joy. Oh, wow, they're just pouring in. Yeah. Look upward and find my answer. I like that one. Stop being so pessimistic. Be in the spotlight. Stop hesitating. Move forward with enthusiasm and don't worry. Yeah, these are great ones. Yeah. So see how you can get almost like a more meaningful personal message from a card when you feel into it and you get a sense of its vibe, its essence, versus just trying to interpret it based on a memorized meaning or looking it up in a book. Okay, so good. The time is just flying by. I can't believe this. I'm already on to secret number 4. Okay, so secret number 4 is connect the cards to see the big picture. So one of the biggest complaints I hear from tarot readers is that they have no problem reading a tarot card on their own. But when it comes to doing a big tarot spread, they find it really challenging to link the cards together to weave a story or to see the big picture. And I remember really struggling with that as well when I was first learning to read tarot. And I think it probably took me a good 2 years before I was comfortable with this. So before I share with you my favorite technique for connecting the cards, I have a question for you. And that is, how do you feel about connecting the cards in one word? So what one word would sum up how you feel about connecting the cards in a tarot reading? So how confident do you feel? Is it something that comes naturally to you? Is it something you struggle with? Now I'll check the comments in a second, but I want to share my favorite technique for connecting the cards. And I actually have quite a few techniques, and I will be, I'm going to be sharing all my techniques for connecting the cards in my 4-week tarot course. That's going to be starting next week, which I'm going to talk about a little bit at the end of the webinar. I'm going to mention it. So this is just one of my techniques. So I want you to think of a tarot reading as being like a letter. So not an email and not a text. I feel like nobody writes letters anymore. I'm about to go off on a tangent about letters, but I remember when I was 12 years old, I had like 50 pen pals in all different countries. And I remember I was constantly writing letters. I was constantly receiving letters, and I would have all this fancy stationery. And I even had like those wax things where you would like melt the wax and stamp like those wax seals. And I had so much fun. I loved writing letters. And now, like, I don't know the last time I actually received a letter in the mail. It just like doesn't really happen. I feel like people are all about the texting. People don't even write emails anymore. So, okay, so I want you to think of a tarot reading as being like an old-fashioned letter. And each tarot card in a spread is like a sentence. So each tarot card kind of gives you a piece of information. But it's when you step back and look at the tarot reading as a whole that all the sentences kind of come together and you get a more deeper, more meaningful, big picture message in the reading. You get to see the whole letter. Now, I'm just gonna have a quick peek at the comments here. Did I know calligraphy? Robert asks. No, I didn't know calligraphy. I never learned calligraphy, although I had calligraphy pens. Yeah, some of you are nostalgic for letter writing too, it looks like, by the sounds of it. Okay, so I'm just going to read some of the things people said about how the one word to sum up how they feel about connecting the cards. Struggle, unsure, hit or miss, rough, comfortable, good. Some struggles, insecure. It looks like most of you aren't totally comfortable with connecting the cards, which makes sense because that's what I hear from a lot of readers. Okay, so here is an exercise for you. So I've got these 3 cards that are from the Hesychos Tarot, again, by Mary Griffin. We've got Death, Seven of Cups, and the Four of Swords. Now, I want you to look at these three cards, and I want you to see each card as being like a sentence. But the cards all together are a letter. So we're going to start with Death, and we're going to read, over to the right. So starting with the Death card, how would you sum up this card in a sentence? And don't think too hard about this. So I don't want you to really think about this. I just want you to say whatever kind of pops into your mind. You just want to go with it. And if you're a total beginner and you have no idea what any of these cards are or what they mean, just make something up. Just look at the image, make something up. So I'm going to do this exercise with you, and I'm going to do it out loud. So when I look at the Death card, the sentence that pops into my head is, don't be afraid to let go. Because death is all about release and letting go. So that's the sentence I come up with. There's like a million different ones you could come up with, though. That's just the one that pops into my head. And then moving over to the Seven of Cups. Here we've got 7 cups. Each cup has like a totally different thing coming out of it. And to me, this card is about different choices, different possibilities. And that feeling you get when you're kind of stuck because there's so many choices, you're like not really sure what to do. So let's sum this one up in a sentence. I might say the Seven of Cups, a sentence would be, you've got lots of options, or there's lots of options. And then the next card, the Four of Swords, this card is about rest, specifically resting the mind. So ceasing thought, which is, what this person is doing. They're sleeping. Sometimes sometimes the Four of Swords will show someone meditating. It's another good image to remember this card by. So if I were to sum the Four of Swords up in a sentence, I might say, stop thinking. Or go within for guidance. Okay, so let's read this like a letter. Okay, so starting with Death, I would say, don't be afraid to let go. You've got lots of options. So don't be afraid to let go of something because there's plenty of options ahead of you. But you need to go within for guidance before you make any decisions. So that's how I would connect these cards. So see how doing that kind of allows you to make connections with these cards. And now this is just one technique. It's not a technique that works very well in like a big spread with like lots of cards, but I find it works really well for the smaller spreads with, 3 or 4 cards. Okay. Okay, so how did you find that exercise? Was that easy to do or was that confusing? I never really know. I'm gonna peek over to the chat room here and see what people are saying. Oh, I like these. Yeah, Anna, you just let go of the analysis paralysis and use your intuition to make the choice. Yeah, okay, you guys liked it. Not easy, but not confusing either. Yeah, it's not the easiest technique, and I kind of wasn't sure if I should include it in this webinar, if I should do something easier, but I thought, I'll give you guys a challenge. I think you guys are probably like up for a challenge, right? Nice. Okay, good. It looks like you guys like that. Yeah, so it's a fun one to try with all different cards. Yeah, so give it a go next time you're doing a spread. Awesome. Okay, so those are my 4 secrets to doing fabulous tarot readings. And like I said, I've got a handout that I want to give you, a free download. And I'm going to put that up in a sec here. But first, I want to talk a little bit about my upcoming class. So this is a 4-week tarot class. It's called the Daily Tarot Girl's Guide to Intuitive Tarot Reading. It's a 4-week tarot adventure. And I designed this course for beginner and intermediate tarot readers, specifically those of you who feel drawn to learn more about tarot, but feel like you are getting frustrated and confused by your readings. And this program will help you read tarot with more confidence, and it will help you incorporate your intuition into your readings more so that you are able to do readings that are more skillful. You'll just feel more skilled as a tarot reader. So this course actually starts on, I think I already mentioned it starts in about a week. So next Tuesday, April 4th. And your 4-week course includes a new video lesson each week. There's going to be fun worksheets and exercises for each video lesson to help you learn and practice each concept. There's going to be a live Q&A call every 2 weeks. So that's where you can phone in, talk to me live, ask me any questions. And I'm going to record these calls. So even if you can't make the call, you can still listen to it after. And there's also a really awesome private Facebook group where you can ask me questions, you can connect with others doing the course, and you can practice some of the new tarot skills that you learn. And that Facebook group is so awesome. So it's open now. So if you sign up for this course today, you'll have immediate access to the Facebook group. And there's just an awesome group of tarot readers in there. Everyone's very positive and encouraging and really fun. I'm really proud and excited to have such a good group of people signed up so far. And there's going to be weekly contests and challenges with awesome prizes. And all course materials are fully downloadable. And you have lifetime access to the course. So you can take as long as you like to do the course. It's not going to disappear on you. So I'm just going to give you just a brief overview of what I'm going to cover in my 4-week course. So week 1 is igniting your intuition. And you're going to learn, you're going to meet your inner psychic. You're going to learn 3 powerful ways to be more intuitive without meditating. Because I feel like there's so much emphasis on meditation when it comes to intuition exercises. So I promise I won't make you meditate in my course. You're going to learn 10 different ways to read a tarot card intuitively. And you're going to learn how to use a tarot card to unlock the secrets within. So how to explore your intuition and your inner realms with tarot. Week 2, we're going to focus on understanding the tarot card meanings. So I'm not actually going to teach you the tarot card meanings. I'm going to teach you how to connect with the tarot card meanings and how to understand them on a deeper, more meaningful level. And I'm going to help you align with the 4 suits. I'm going to show you how to develop a personal connection with each card. And I'm going to teach you a really special technique that I call reading tarot with your heart. Week 3 is all about context and combinations. So we focus on how to interpret a card in many different contexts and situations. And you're going to learn how the cards influence each other. And there's also a little segment on asking the right questions before a tarot reading. Week 4 is all about tarot spreads and connecting the cards. So you're going to learn how to craft your own tarot spreads. You're going to learn 5 ways to connect the cards in a reading. We're going to focus on how to tell a story, like how to weave a narrative with the cards. And you'll learn how to see the big picture in a reading and decipher the true message in a tarot spread. So my course begins on April 4th. And and I just remembered, I was supposed to put this little thing on the right-hand side. Okay. So if you look over to your right, I haven't put it up yet. Let's see here. Okay. So if you look over to your right, there's a little pink box there. It says the Daily Tarot Rules Guide to Intuitive Tarot Reading. So if you're interested in signing up for my course, or if you just want more information about it, if you click on that yellow or orange Register Now button, that will take you to the sign up page on my site. So from there, you can sign up for my tarot course, or you can just find out a little more information about it. So I've got 2 levels of sign up. So you can sign up as a regular student or a VIP student. So if you sign up as a VIP student, you get the 4-week course. And you also will get a 1-hour tarot mentoring session with me. And we do that over Skype or telephone. Or you can just sign up as a regular student. So that's just the 4-week course without the tarot mentoring session. So the cost of the program is $147. And if you choose the VIP package, it's a little bit more expensive, but not much more. So, so yeah, I hope you can join me. If you can't join me for this round of my tarot course, please visit my website. It's dailytarotgirl.com. And you can learn a lot more about tarot reading there. So I've got tons of video tutorials, I've got deck reviews, there's lots of tarot exercises and tons of information about learning tarot there. So if you're not ready to do the course, but you still want to learn more about tarot, my website's a pretty good resource. So, oh, one more thing that I totally forgot to do is I want to give you a peek of what my course looks like in the members area. So once you sign up for my course, I don't know if you guys can see that. I'm just gonna, nope. Okay, let me just try something here. Okay, so here is what, if you sign up for my course, this is what it looks like when you go to the main page. So you can see there's each week here, there's a welcome video, link to the Facebook group, some pre-course worksheets, and then there's some information about the course. And then week one, I'll give you a sneak peek at what week one looks like. So here's week one. And week one, Igniting Intuition. So week one actually has 4 video lessons. So each week has about 4 short videos of about 15 to 20 minutes. And each video has some worksheets for it. So there's lots of content. And each week there'll be a tarot challenge. So there's plenty of content to keep you busy for a while. Okay, so I'm gonna go back. Okay, I'm gonna. Okay, there I am. I look really orange for some reason. Just gonna open a blind here. There, okay, I'm a little less orange now. Okay. Okay, so now I would like to open it up for Q&A. So what I'm gonna do here is, and I did promise you that I would give you a free download. So I'm gonna do that right now. Okay, so if you look over to your right again, there is a big purple box that says my 2 favorite tarot exercises. So this is just a couple worksheets. One of them is that tarot deck interview worksheet, and then there's another worksheet that will help you, kind of walks you through the process of getting a sense of a card's essence or vibe. It's a really fun worksheet. Okay, so I'm gonna open it up to Q&A. So there's something that you can do when you type your question. If you type it to, I think you can send it to, okay. I think you can send it to me. So if you send me when you type your comment, I think there's an option. What I'm seeing is different from what you're seeing, so I can't describe it very well. But I think there's an option for you to send your question to me, and then it will show up in red writing, so it will be easier for me to see the question. So yes, if you have a question for me, if you have a question to do with anything to do with tarot reading, whether it's about something we covered in the webinar, something totally unrelated, or about my course, whatever it is, I'm open to answer it. So, so I'm opening the lines up now for questions. And I just want to say, yes, Jeffrey, you sent me a thing saying testing. That's awesome because it shows up as a question mark for me. So perfect. Nice. Okay, so I will. I'll start answering questions now. This is my favorite part of my webinars, is doing the questions, the Q&A. Okay. So before I get into the questions, I just want to say thank you to everyone, because I know some of you, don't have time to stay for the whole Q&A period. So I just want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you so much for choosing to spend your evening with me. And I hope that you've found this webinar helpful, and that I hope that it inspires you to do more readings. And I hope you've learned some valuable insights that you can take home and start incorporating into your tarot readings. Okay, so the first question is from Anna. And Anna, you ask, what's the hardest part of reading cards intuitively for you? I think that depends. I find that reading tarot intuitively when I'm reading for myself is a really easy, natural process. I find it's way more challenging when I'm reading for someone else. So I feel like my rational mind gets in the way when I'm reading for another person. And I feel like I also get more nervous when I'm reading for someone, even though I've done it a million times. So when I'm reading for someone live, like if they're actually sitting in front of me, I find just the excitement of doing a reading for someone can actually almost like block my intuition. And I just get kind of nervous. Which is part of the reason why when I do readings for people, I like to do recorded readings. So they'll send me their questions like via email, and I just sit at home at my computer and I will do the reading alone, and I record myself doing the reading. And I find when I do that, it's really easy for me to connect to my intuition. And I find that the less information I have about someone, the easier it is to use my intuition in a reading. Once I know too much about someone, I feel like my judgmental mind or my logical mind can kind of get in the way. Okay, so the next question is from Jeffrey. And Jeffrey, you ask, what do you think of reading without reversals? Okay, so Jeffrey, I don't use reversals when I read. I shuffle the cards in a certain way so that I only get upright cards. And yeah, so I don't do reversals. The reason I don't do reversals is because I find that doing reversals for me, it kind of confuses the reading. There's something annoying about seeing upside down cards for me. I feel like when I read the tarot cards all upright, I feel like there's already a big enough range of meanings and interpretations that I just feel like it's just making the reading unnecessarily complicated to read with reversals. So I think it's totally okay to not read with reversals. Okay, so another question is from Cindy, and Cindy, you ask, how did you gain the confidence to become a tarot reader? That's a good question, Cindy, and I'm still not 100% confident as a tarot reader, because I still get really nervous when I do readings for people like face-to-face, or if I do like a tarot party, I still get really nervous, and I still sometimes will doubt myself. So, but obviously I'm way more confident now than I was when I first started doing tarot readings. So I would say that what helped me gain confidence was simply experience and time. So the more readings you do, the more confident you get. And the more time you spend with your tarot deck, the more time that passes, the more confident you're going to feel. I know that I made a huge leap in confidence when I was working in a rehab facility. So it was like a rehab for people with like drug and alcohol addictions. And I was working there, and I was practicing my tarot readings on some of the patients, which probably wasn't allowed, but no one really said anything or complained. And I remember doing like a ton of readings for people, like in a short amount of time, and just exposing myself like that and putting myself in that situation where I was doing lots and lots of readings one after the other. I was able to just get comfortable with it. It's like if you have a phobia, right? If you expose yourself to that thing that you're scared of over and over, eventually you're not as scared anymore. So I think that's the key to feeling confident with tarot. Okay, Lorraine asks, where could I get a PD read? I guess a private reading Where could I get a private reading from you? I'm not doing private readings at the moment, Lorraine. Usually about once a year, usually around January, I will open it up for private readings. So if you want to find out the next time that I'm offering private readings, just get on my mailing list. So if you go to my website, should be able to figure it out from there. And then I always let people on my mailing list know when I'm offering readings. Hey, Sapphire asks, my cards have dragons rather than humanoids, so facial expressions don't really happen. This makes intuitive reading difficult. Any suggestions? This is a good question, Sapphire, because some people have decks that have like pip cards, which don't have actual scenes on them. So like, for example, the 5 of Swords is just 5 swords. There's not like people or things happening on them. So your question could apply to a lot of different decks. I would say you need to be able to connect with your tarot cards. And I'm guessing that you have the dragon deck because you like dragons and that you have some kind of connection with dragons. So I would just say you need to be creative in how you connect with those cards, if that makes sense. I think if you have a hard time reading a dragon deck intuitively, then maybe take a break from that deck for a little while, try a different deck. But yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that question, because for me, I mean, you also want to look at like other aspects of that card. It's not just about facial expression and body language. There's also going to be symbols on that card, and symbols act as a really powerful trigger for your intuition. So paying attention to symbols, paying attention to the colors on a card, and simply just paying attention to like the energetic feel that you get from that card based on colors, symbols, the posture of the dragon, things like that. Okay, Thomas asks, is it really hard for me? Oh, it is really hard for me to sit down with my deck. I get overwhelmed before I even give or do a reading for myself. How do I get over my fear of failure, or is it a commitment issue? Okay, this is interesting. So I guess I have a question for you, and that is, what is it that you're afraid of? So if you are indeed avoiding sitting down with your deck because you feel afraid that you're going to fail, what exactly are you worried about? Are you worried that you're going to interpret the cards wrong? Because I know like a lot of people worry that they're not going to read the tarot cards correctly. And I think that if you're interpreting a card with your intuition, or if you're incorporating your intuition into how you're interpreting that card, you can't really do it wrong. So if you're using your cards to like predict events, then obviously you can mess up and be wrong with that. But if you're using a card to explore your intuition and to explore different ways of looking at something, you really can't go wrong. So I would say for you, switch up how you look at doing a tarot reading. So if you sit down with your cards and you think, okay, I've got to get answers, or I've got to figure this out, or I have to get clarity on this. I mean, that's going to put a lot of pressure and stress on you, and that's going to be stressful and overwhelming, right? But if you approach your tarot readings as being more like explorations and experiments, then that's going to take some of the pressure off, and that's actually going to allow you to be more relaxed, be more creative, and that's going to allow your intuition to come through a lot more strongly. So that would be my advice to you. If I misunderstood your question, or if that didn't answer it, just let me know. Okay, so another question I got is from Joyce. It says, how many different decks are best for a beginner as myself? And thank you, this was fun. Thank you, Joyce. I'm glad you enjoyed it. How many different decks are good for a beginner? I would actually say one deck is ideal, because with one deck, you're not going to get overwhelmed. I mean, you're probably still going to get overwhelmed because there's, 78 cards in a deck. But with one deck, that really allows you to just focus on that deck, get to know that deck, and it's going to be less overwhelming for you. I didn't do that when I was learning tarot. I immediately bought 2 decks. And then I've since bought a deck, like, I don't know, every month or something. So I have a lot of different decks. So I feel like kind of a hypocrite telling you to just have one deck. But knowing what I know now about tarot, if I had it to do over again, I think I just would have gotten one deck, at least for the first, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of learning tarot. Yeah. Okay. So Deb asks, since I am an empath, are there any other tricks quickly to say to help me not rely on my intuition so much? Oh, okay, this is cool. This is a cool question. One that I don't think I've ever had this question. So Deb is wanting to know how to not read the tarot cards with so much intuition. So how to incorporate more intellect into your readings. I would say, yeah, because you're an empath and you maybe want to be less empathetic in your readings. I don't know if that's really a problem though, being being an empath and using your intuition in a reading. I think maybe like reading a book about tarot cards and reading about tarot card meanings is something that's going to kind of help you shift to a more mental focus on the cards, if that's what you're wanting to incorporate more of. So I would say just reading more books about tarot might be helpful for you. It might put you in that kind of more intellectual state when it comes to reading. Good question though. Just kind of threw me because that's a different question than I normally get asked. Okay, so Vera asks, I draw a card every morning and write down my thoughts, then read the card to see if I've matched the meanings. Okay, so I'm guessing what you're doing is you're drawing a card, you're writing down your first impressions, and then I think you're looking it up in a book to see if the meaning in the book was similar. I think that's what you're saying. But there are a lot of cards, and it seems like it would take me forever to get through every one of them, especially when I draw the same ones some days. Any tips? Okay, no, I don't have any tips for you. So, well, one tip, if you're drawing the same cards, I mean, you could, once you draw a card, you could, set it aside so you don't draw it again. But I don't really have any tips as to how to make this process faster. And this is the thing. I think that there's a lot of books and courses out there that promise to teach you how to learn tarot really fast, like in a month or whatever. And I think that tarot is one of those things that just, and oracle cards, it's something that takes a while to learn. It's like, I always liken it to like peeling an onion, right? There's so many layers to it and you can go really deep with it. So I would say don't be in a rush. Just take your time. It's okay. It's okay that it takes forever. Okay, so Lorraine, you say that you read the 8 and 9 of Swords differently from the norm. Is that okay? Yeah, it's totally okay. It's okay if you read the tarot cards differently from what it says in a tarot book. That's fine. The thing with tarot is that it's important that you have associations with each card. It doesn't matter so much if your associations are different from someone else's, because the tarot is like a language, and it's almost like how we can learn a language, but we might have our own words for certain things. And as long as we know what those words mean, then it's fine. I don't know if that makes sense. Maybe I didn't explain that well, but it's okay. Okay, Sophia asks, I've had my deck for a couple months and readings feel easy, almost too easy. Is this normal for a well-worn deck? So you say, is this normal for a well-worn deck, but you've only had your deck a couple of months. So I'm guessing you have a second-hand deck, maybe? I'm not sure. Is this normal? No, that's not really normal. I've never heard anyone say that they've Oh, I'm not sure if you're saying you've had the deck a couple months or that you've only been reading a couple months. I'm guessing you've been reading a while and it's just with this deck that readings feel easy. I think that's normal. I think I've noticed like certain decks are easier to read than others, and there's just some decks that I really click with and I find are like super easy to read. Actually, one deck, it's right next to me. I love this deck. It's the Heart and Hands Tarot. I don't know if you've seen this one. It's a black and white deck. And it looks like this. The box has a cover kind of like that, Heart and Hands Tarot. And it's a black and white deck. And I just find it like super easy to read. Even like when I first took it out of the box and started doing readings with it, I found it like just felt so natural for me. So I don't think that's weird that you find that it's easier to read from a certain deck. I think that's what you're asking me. Okay, is it better to stay with one deck? I only started a few months ago. Yeah, and I think I answered that question already. So yeah, I think if you're a beginner, it is good to stick with just one deck. And Kim asks, Kim, you wrote, I have trouble with meditation. Is it necessary for intuition? So is doing meditation necessary to be intuitive? I would say no, you don't have to meditate in order to be intuitive. Meditation helps because in order to be intuitive, you have to, it's almost like you switch over into right brain thinking. And I actually have a whole video on this in my in my course on the difference between like left brain thinking and right brain thinking. And basically most of us are in our left brain. So that's like the rational kind of part of our brains. And when you're connecting with your intuition, you're really kind of moving over into right brain thinking. And when you meditate, you are essentially in some ways quieting that left brain. So you're quieting the rational mind, you're quieting thoughts and linear thinking. And it makes it easier when you do that, when you go within and you allow yourself to become quiet, you quiet your mind, it's easier for you to shift into that more kind of right brain intuitive mode. So that's why meditation is useful. But there's a lot of other ways that you can shift into that right brain, which I divulge in my 4-week course. So you don't have to meditate to be intuitive at all. Yeah, there's lots of other ways to work on intuition. Okay, so, oh good, Thomas, you're clarifying your previous question. You struggle with spending time with your cards. How can I start spending more quality time? Oh, this is interesting. It's kind of like, I was trying to think of an analogy of how this is. Yeah, I have actually, I feel that way about meditation because I'm like, I should meditate more. I really should start more of a regular meditation practice, and yet I don't. And I'm thinking, why? Why do I do that? And I know a lot of people are like that with exercise, right? They want to exercise, they have that intention, they feel they should exercise, but for some reason they just aren't making the time. I would ask yourself, why do you want to spend time with your tarot cards? What's your, what are those reasons? So, yeah, why do you want to read tarot? Why do you want to get to know your deck? And get clear on what your reasons are. And notice how you're spending your time now. So when you're not spending time with tarot, what are you doing instead? And you know, what needs are those things fulfilling? Because sometimes it's not that you can't sit down with your tarot deck. It's just that you have some other need that for whatever reason feels more important to you at that time. So I would just get really clear with myself on, yeah, why I wanted to read tarot in the first place, why I want to spend time with my deck. And I mean, of course, you can always schedule in time. You can put it in your calendar. And I think with anything, it's easier to do something if it feels pleasurable to you. So maybe there's something about spending time with your, studying your tarot cards that feels difficult for you, or that feels like, I think you mentioned you feel overwhelmed. So see if you can add pleasure to your tarot time. So there's some days where I do not feel like writing blog posts or making videos for my website, believe it or not. And I'm like, I have to write this blog post, but I'm not in the mood. I'd rather be outside or something. So I'll try to make the process as pleasurable as possible. I'll burn some incense, I'll play some nice music, I'll light some candles. I'll try to seduce myself into writing. So that's something that you might want to try. Okay. Oh, Errol asks, do you have a favorite or maybe top 3 book on tarot? I do have a favorite book on tarot. Hold on, I'm just going to grab it from my bookshelf here. So, A Magical Course in Tarot by Michelle Morgan. This is probably my favorite book on tarot. There's lots of good books out there, but this is the one that was the first book that I read, and it had the biggest impact on me. So this one, A Magical Course in Tarot by Michelle Morgan, I would recommend. I also really like Learning the Tarot by Joan Bunning. So it looks like this. This is also a really good one. Well worth it. It's a good, especially for beginners, it really lays everything out in here. And then another book that I love is Tarot Wisdom by Rachel Pollack. This one's great. This one's really awesome. It's not a beginner deck or a beginner book. I wouldn't recommend it for beginners, but once you kind of have a general understanding of tarot, it's a good book to read if you want like a deeper understanding of the tarot card meanings. Okay. So Jane asks, multicultural decks. As a person of color, I'm having trouble connecting to the Rider-Waite-Smith decks, and I'm currently working with the Deviant Moon deck, no races. Any recommendations? Okay, so for a multicultural tarot deck, you know, there's one tarot deck that is so cool. It's called the New Orleans Voodoo Tarot. And I have to admit, I rarely use it because it's one of those decks that it's different from like the Rider-Waite-Smith format. So when I look at the cards, like I have no idea what they mean. Like they're very different, and I'll actually show them to you. But I really, really like the artwork, and it's a pretty cool deck. So if you have, it comes with a really good book that explains all the cards. I just haven't had the patience to sit down and read the book and like learn a whole new deck. But the cards are really neat. And this is one of those decks where I'm like just waiting till I have some time to learn this deck. So I'll just show you a few of the cards. It's a really neat deck. I don't know if you can see those. I don't know if anyone's heard of this deck. And I'm trying to think of any other multicultural decks. I think I showed that one already. Anyways, so yeah, the artwork's really cool on here. I want to say the Osho Zen deck might be kind of multicultural. Someone asked me this a while ago, and I had never really thought about it, but a lot of the tarot decks have predominantly white people on them, which I don't know if that's a result of tarot having like originated from Europe. I'm just trying to think if there's any other decks. Yeah, I would look into Osho Zen. I can think of a few oracle card decks that have different races on them. Yeah, so I hope I answered your question. Okay. So the next question is from Chrissy. How long have you been reading? Chrissy, I'm not sure exactly. I think I started learning in 2007 or 2008. So I guess almost 10 years now. Yeah. And Sophia asks, do you have any tips for getting excited to read? I want to read, but the process can be draining. Yes, so this would, what I just said to Thomas about making the whole process pleasurable for you, I think that's really important. So I think if you're feeling drained, by reading and learning to read, I think it's probably because you have a lot of expectations and you're taking it really seriously. So lighten up and just relax. So don't put pressure on yourself to learn all the tarot card meanings or to be able to do readings. Like, don't put a timeline on yourself or put any pressure on yourself, and just see working with your cards as more of an exploration and as something that is fun and almost like an adventure. And actually, if you go to my website and kind of look through there, I've got lots of different tarot exercises for you to try. And I think you'll probably find a few things that feel fun for you and that aren't so serious. But I think that's the key, is to kind of have that kind of fun experimental approach with tarot. Okay. Okay, so Thomas, you say that you're afraid that you won't be fully in tune with your tarot cards or that you will interpret them wrong. And I think I kind of answered this when I said when you incorporate your intuition into your readings, you can't really do it wrong. So I think that the more you do that, the better your readings are going to feel. And also, if you keep a tarot journal and keep track of your interpretations, and then you can kind of look back and see, you know, what readings were accurate, what ones weren't accurate, and that actually might help you feel more confident about your reading skills. Okay, so Seren, you ask, what do you think of decks that use different systems, such as the Thoth Marseille, historical decks, etc.? Yeah, so I think that's great. So the Rider-Waite-Smith system is like the most common, kind of popular, well-known tarot system or structure. But then there's other decks that use kind of almost a slightly different system, like you mentioned, the Thoth and the Thoth deck and the Marseille. And I think they're great. I think it's always challenging to learn a different system. I kind of gravitate toward the Rider-Waite-Smith style just because I'm most familiar with it. But I find that reading with those, reading with what I would call pip decks, so decks where like the minor arcana cards don't have scenes on them, I find that challenging, but in a good way. I really enjoyed, you know, challenging myself. So that's what I think of those decks. Olga asks, how do you tell time? With a watch. Do you have a way to see if a couple will stay together in the long run? I still struggle with this. Okay, so how do you do timing with tarot? How can you get an idea of time frames with tarot? Actually, I have a whole article on my website about this called Tarot and Timing. If you go to my website and type that in the search bar at the top, you'll find that article. I can't off the top of my head remember what I put in the article, but there's certain things you can do, like I think looking at like the numbers on the cards, looking at what seasons are on the cards. There's all kinds of little tricks. Although personally, I've found predicting timing with tarot to not be very accurate. I haven't had a lot of success with that, so I kind of shy away from it because I'm not very good at it myself. And no, I do not have a way to see if a couple will stay together in the long run. I have no idea. I kind of hate doing relationship readings sometimes. Okay, so Angel says, she's brand new to learning tarot. I am very drawn to tarot, but overwhelmed with learning. Do you suggest reading more books in the beginning or spending time with the actual bonding of the cards? I actually would recommend spending more time working with the cards rather than reading books. I think it's really good to have like a really good solid guidebook to refer to when you're first learning, but I think that it's more important to emphasize actually experiencing your cards and working with your cards and getting comfortable with them, as opposed to just reading a lot about tarot. And that's just me. I know everyone's different. If you're more of a academic kind of person, you might prefer to read a lot of books about tarot before you even start doing readings. But it just depends on what your personality is like, I think. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend reading too many books about tarot to start with. Okay, so Cynthia asks, what sort of questions should I be asking my deck as a beginner? Okay, Cynthia, I have actually, maybe I think I can probably put this in the spot where I have the free download. Okay, I'm going to take away that free download. So I hope everyone who wanted it has downloaded it. I'm going to take it away and I'm going to put up a new thingy. So I have a blog post on my site that I think you will like. I think it's called 20 Questions to Ask Your Tarot Cards Tonight. And I'm just really going to quickly look that up, and I'm going to pop that in that box so you can check it out. It's a really fun article. I think everyone would actually enjoy this article. So just bear with me a sec here while I bring it up. Okay, so yeah, so it's questions like, what do I need to know right now? What do I need to focus on right now? What message do my spirit guides have for me? And I'm actually going to see. "20 questions to ask your tarot cards." Okay, so I'm going to put that up there right now. Okay, so if you look over to your right and you click, if you click the orange button, it should, oh, I hope that doesn't take you out of the, no, it shouldn't. It shouldn't take you out of the webinar. Okay. Okay, so the next question is, Jim asks, have you ever used the ghost deck, or do you know folks who do? I don't, actually. I'm not sure. I think I have a friend who has this deck, and I think she said she liked it. Okay, let's see if there's any other questions. Okay, Olga asks, is there a way or spread to see if a couple will end up together in the end, or do you think that there's too much depending on their free will? There's lots of relationship spreads out there. I don't have any myself on that particular topic. I feel like, I don't know, I don't usually use my tarot cards to predict things, especially relationships. So I don't think I'm the best person to ask on that, but I'm sure if you get a book with like spreads or relationship spreads, there might be something like that might be helpful for you. So Jim, oh, I already read that question. So Kim asks, does your course work with oracle cards? Ooh, good question. Yeah, it would. There's one lesson that focuses on talking about tarot structure and talking about the suits. So that wouldn't apply to oracle cards. But in terms of the other techniques that I'm going to teach you, like all the intuitive techniques, you could use that with oracle cards. And then all the techniques I teach you about connecting the cards and reading a card in different contexts, all of those things can be used with oracle cards. There's probably only really like maybe one video that is really focused on like the tarot suits and stuff like that, which wouldn't really apply. So I'm going to say yes, it would work with oracle cards. Oh, thank you, Olga, for your nice comment there. I'm glad you like my 9-card life purpose reading. That's good. Okay, so it looks like there's no more questions, so I'll just put one more call out. If you have one more question before I shut things down, please feel free to ask me. And I'm just going to quickly scroll and see if there's any other questions for me that I may have missed. I think I got all the questions, so I think that's it, which is perfect because it's almost 7:30. I know for those of you, the East Coast is probably really late. Oh, actually there's one. Someone asks, court cards. George asks, court cards, person, action, querent. Yeah, that's a good question. So court cards could be a person. It could refer to like the person being read for. It could refer to a person in that person's life. More often than not, I feel like the court cards represent personality traits, and they're usually personality traits that the person you're reading for needs to embody or needs to be aware of, depending on where that card shows up in the reading. So that's how I usually read a court card, is more like a personality trait. Okay, excellent. I think I'm gonna end it right there. So I just want to once again say thank you so much to all of you who decided to spend your evening with me. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for your really good questions. Those were awesome questions, and I really enjoyed answering them for you. So thank you so much for your time, for your energy, for your presence, and I hope that you've learned a few helpful tips and tricks from my webinar. And make sure you check out my website, dailytarotworld.com. And I hope to see you guys in my 4-week tarot course. If not, I'm sure I'll see you on my next webinar. So thank you so much and good night. Bye.